and nice to see everybody back here. And hello, we've got friends from, where's everybody from, right? We've got friends from Turkey. Hello, welcome. I think we've got friends from Singapore as well. And as you can see, we have a team of different BrainFit panelists, from different countries around the region as well. Feel free to use the chat and say hi, if you're just coming in, and I'll start my introduction. If you are new to BrainFit, allow me to give you a quick introduction. And for those who have heard this, please bear with me. So my name is Cheryl. I am the founder of BrainFit. I am a pediatric physiotherapist by training and have been working with the brain for a very, very long time, since immediately after I graduated with my posting in the hospital. And I am a mom to 2 girls. I've written a book and I love what I do. Can we change the brain? Yes, we can. Is it easy? No, no, because it's a commitment and it's like physical fitness, very much so, right? Can we get fit? Yes. But is it easy? No, you got to go to the gym, X number of times a week. So this is more and more what we're understanding about the brain. And today we are here to talk about devices and how it's eating into our executive function, eroding our ability to focus. Back to BrainFit. I started BrainFit quite some time ago, and we have grown it from Singapore. That's where we started, to all the different countries on the screen. And that's why you see our panelists from the different countries. And so we do have quite an international audience with us as well. And hello, good morning, if you're coming in from another part of the world. So here you can see some of our centers. So we offer enrichment programs to babies as young as 9 months, all the way to older people. In some locations, like the one in Singapore, we run a preschool as well. And here you can see some of our students at work. Some awards we have won along the way, our partners in the field of brain science. And so that's my quick introduction. And so we are here to talk about executive function. It is the last of a 3-part series. So in the very first part, if we recall, we talk about 6 important skills, that are kind of described within executive function. And then in the second part, we talked about how can we develop these skills, through different strategies or exercises. Now, today, we want to talk about a specific issue, I think, that if you're a parent like me, that we experience, or I'm sure if you're teachers as well, you have the challenge of, your kids being distracted, and ourselves as well, increasingly so, with the devices that we hold in our hands. So managing weapons of mass distraction, right? So I want to, talk about 2 main parts, right? Screen time. How much is too much? Okay, so we're talking about a phenomenon that's really unique to the modern world, right? With technology advances. So technology is great, but at the same time, it brings with it some major concerns as well. And then in the second part, we want to talk about what are some of the things that researchers are saying, in terms of how we can help our children to manage these very powerful little weapons or instruments that we have in our hands, without, it affecting our brain. And our brain is our CPU, so it's a very important organ and something that we need to look after. All right. So I want to start with a question. Hello, Samantha. Hi, Sissy. From Ireland. You're welcome. Yeah. And I have a question for you. Do you know there are different types of screen time? Now, this is a genuine question. I don't know if you know. Yes or no answer? Yeah. Can we get some participation from the audience? Hi, Karen from Bangkok. Yeah. And do you know? This is a genuine question from me. So yes, Patricia, thank you. Right. Everybody knows that there are different types of screen time. Again, this is a yes. Great. No. Okay. No. All right, we've got a couple of no's. Anybody else? Yeah, no. Yeah, okay. It's not a test, just very genuine. We're all learning, right? I just want to know, kind of like what's the sense out there? What do we know about screen time? Right, Junie, thank you. Mary, thank you. Michelle. Okay, great. So we've got yes and no's. Yeah, we've got to see Right. Okay. I recognize that they exist. Thank you, Paramjit. And but not sure in what way. Okay. Great. Okay. Let's clarify a little bit, because in order to answer that question, what is excessive? And we get a lot of questions as well. Do we use devices? How much of screen time is used in the brain training program? Why? And these are very, very legitimate questions, right? So we need to in order to really help our children manage, I think we need to really know quite clearly what we are dealing with. Okay. Now, how much is too much depends on the type of screen time. Okay. So in order to know whether you're excessive, and whether you're excessive or not, and how are you going to manage them, and even if they're even excessive, right? So it depends on what is the type of screen time. Okay. Now, in a very broad manner, I would say that there are 4 main types of screen time. Okay. So the first is, I will put under the umbrella, is an entertainment screen time. It means you are watching the TV, you're watching YouTube videos, you're watching cartoons, movies, right? And entertainment has different forms. So, and it's different, okay? Watching TV and YouTube's is different from playing computer games and gaming. That's also entertainment, right? But it's different. Okay. And I'm going to talk about each one's impact on the brain and the concerns, right? So you have 2 types of entertainment media. So one's your kind of movie type, one's gaming. Yeah. And then we also have social media. Okay. Social screen time, right? So you're talking about us spending time on WhatsApp, or Instagram, Facebook, TikTok videos now, and so that's social. That's supposedly connecting us, right? And bringing people together. But yet the data is showing that the more and more connected we are through devices, the more and more lonely people are reporting. These are real data. Okay, so it's connecting us in some ways, but it's also isolating us in different ways, right? And these are real kind of research findings that we are seeing. And now the last, I would put it in a category of your school. We're spending, in the last few years, we've spent a lot of time on the screen to learn, right? And we're in that category. We use the screen to train the brain using a software that neuroscientists have researched and come out and try and accelerate your language speed, so that when your teacher is teaching, you can grasp content faster, to give you a more efficient brain that learns per hour faster. So you have tools like that. Okay, so but it's all in the mishmash of screen time. Okay, and I have pictures of elephants, so it's like your documentaries. Okay, your National Geographic, you're learning something. So there's that educational screen. Okay, now let's look at each one of them and some of the research and the implications, right? And why it's important for us to differentiate. Number one, right? Because some are scary and some are great. Brain training apps are great. We have trouble getting our kids on them because they have to work. But other games are addictive. All right. So it's drastically different impacts on the brain. Okay. So that's what we want to talk about first before we want to talk about managing them. Entertainment media, what do we know? Arousing of emotions, like when you're watching a great movie, right? James Bond, wow, it's so suspenseful, for example, right? However, it dampens intellectual processing. You go in a low cognitive load, right? It's the couch potato thing where you're just kind of sitting there being entertained, right? You're not really processing very much, right? So dampens intellectual processing, verbal skills. Now, this is a summary of research. I'm just going to quote you some isolated ones. For example, children, 9 and 10-year-olds, these are then research findings, who spent more than 2 hours. Now, the magic word is 2 hours. I'm going to come back to 2 hours again for the older kids, yeah. Children who are spending more than 2 hours a day on entertainment viewing scored lower on language and thinking tests. Okay, so it is not intellectually stimulating, right? If you are talking about Yeah, but if I'm watching National Geographic, Sesame Street, learning, you want to put it kind of under educational, right? So there's that little bit that you have to tease out, right? But it's usually, when you have the alphabets, it's a clearer value proposition. Whereas this is like entertainment, it makes you laugh, okay? And when you're kept in suspense. So that's more that a lot of emotions being pulled, but cognitively, it goes into a low zone, right? You're kind of just zoning out, okay? Now there's gaming. I'm going to talk about gaming and social together because that's when your addiction is at the highest risk, okay? Now, that's addiction where you want to come back again compulsively, okay? Now, TV probably does a little bit of that, but it's not compulsive like the way dopamine. Dopamine is our rewards, our motivation network, okay? Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that content people, social platform people are manipulating to get you to come back, to get more eyeballs so they can have more advertisers, so you can get hooked on the games, you spend more money, buying your weapons and all that, right? Where it can become addictive. So that's when you have dopamine release. That's the scary one, okay? Some games have been found to be beneficial cognitively. Gamers, we know, have higher processing speed, right? Because you're gaming, you are working the brain in some way. If you're shooting very fast, right, you're building reaction time. Okay, if you're doing certain games, Candy Crush, right, it does work on you spatially. You have to see where the block's going to fall, right? So there's some cognitive loading, right? But if you're talking about games, like kind of games on the app, right? Where you're drawn in, it asks you, encourage you to spend a bit more money over time, right? Those often have an addictive component, surprises, collecting a collection of things to get you to come back. And social, why is it addictive? It's the likes, right? It's when you post, somebody likes it. Now, I'm going to talk about some of the neural networks and how manipulation is actually going on so that we are all more aware, and it helps us to manage. Okay. Now, what do we know? Some research, college students, you know what they did? When they limited their social media use to less than 30 minutes a day, then they started to report less loneliness and depression after just 3 weeks. So they're connecting you, people are liking you, but it is actually isolating you emotionally and feeling more stressed because do they like me or not? I mean, it is the social platforms create this addiction, and in the process, right, you get hooked, into all this. They get you in very slowly so that we don't even know. Right. And then finally, there's the educational ones that kids want to get off. So a lot of talk has been, when we talk about online school, right, a couple of years back, where it's really talking about how to engage the kids. They're not engaged, right? They're nowhere engaged like when they're playing games. So it's really different kind of screen content, slow pace. The brain has to work because you're learning. Learning is when your brain has to work. That's why it's effortful, and people, our brains don't like to exert too much effort. That's why entertainment is always a bigger draw than effort learning. All right, that's just the way we are. All right, we want to go through the path of least resistance, do the easy things. Okay, so no adverse effects on the brain. It's just that the kids are not engaged. The issue is getting the kids to do it, right? Like us. Hey, do your brain training exercises. All right. So obviously we make it as fun as we can, right? But it is effort. Our brain likes to be entertained more than it likes to work. Okay. Just like we don't like to go to the gym as much as we like to just, sit and watch a movie. Okay. Obviously, all right, engagement wise, we know that physical classes, we know that learning is social, where you have your human, influence, which is why online classes were so difficult. Yeah. And, but so classes that has a physical element, classes that have a social element are definitely a lot more effective for learning. Okay. But commenting on the screen itself, there's no adverse effect. The challenge is to get the kids to be motivated. Now, all the other type of media is where we then get to be a bit concerned. Now, I'm just going to go straight into what WHO, the latest kind of recommendations, looking at whether screen time has an educational, like the effect. Okay, now, under 18 months, the recommendation is 0 screen time, even with educational media. okay, with the best Sesame Street or whatever. But the baby is not ready to learn on the screen. It's too abstract. They cannot conceptualize, all right? So they are figuring out the screen more than taking away the learning. This is at least what scientists up to now have found, right? With the best content, you are not able to reach out to the child. That's it. Okay, so you can use it as a babysitting tool, but it's not good because it's fast-paced. We don't like fast moving things too much. We want to slow things down. If you were here in my last webinar, I talk about attentive stretch play, right? You want to build attention span, stretch out your play, right? Because attention is about staying on task. Okay, so if you're changing rapidly, we know that young children who spend their time on the gadgets, on screen in the first 3 years of life, every hour additional can increase the incidence of ADD or ADHD by about 10%. Okay, so early years are very important because the brain's foundation are being laid down. That's why it's a great, wonderful period for building the best brain, great potential, right? So we emphasize so much on getting the children early, train the brain, that's a very good time, right? But at the same time, if there's something adverse, you can lay down very stubborn and undesirable networks as well. Now, 18 months onwards, researchers have found that babies are now able to learn, right? 18 to 24 months, under an hour a day with a good program, but the learning is possible with an adult, co-viewing, they call it, where the child is the adult, is mediating the learning, concretizing these abstract concepts or bringing the concepts to a real life level where the child is able to actually learn. So learning have been reported, right, in this age group, but not more than an hour. Now, beyond here, we're now talking about entertainment, right? So now the child is able to learn, beyond 2 years, you probably do not have to sit with the child that much. You play a good Sesame Street show. Yeah, they are maybe able to learn the alphabets and the numbers, okay? But now we're starting to look at entertainment media. Under an hour, if you're watching cartoons, Peppa Pig, it's okay, but we're not recommending anything more than an hour before the age of 5, between 2 and 5. Now, from 6 and up, now we're continuously talking about entertainment media from then on, because educational media has a place. But obviously, we're not wanting here when they're below 6, right? You still want to watch out even if it's educational, right? So I would be more conservative and say that the cumulated total number of media hours, just keep it under 1, right? But you can have entertainment. Beyond that, schools are already using technology to learn. So sometimes children are doing projects. They're researching on the volcano. How am I going to build a volcano? So there's education. So we're saying that if you're watching TV and videos, and doing your games, right? So entertainment media should not, leisure media or social, right? Anything that's not educational, not work related, not school related, should not be more than 2 hours a day. And this recommendation spans all the way to the adulthood. Okay, so this is what and so the quick reminder is 2 hours. I think I stick onto that, right? So children are the best in mental health if they are sleeping 8 to 10 hours a day, less than 2 hours of leisure screen time, and 1 hour of physical activity. All right, so it's kind of that formula. Keep them active, have good sleep, under 2 hours of screen, all right, to keep the brains in good health. Okay, so and in the first 6 years, that's when you really have to be a bit more concerned, especially in the first 3 years and also up to the 6 years, right? That's when 6 years is a big brain milestone, so that it becomes more mature. So you've got to be more careful here, because what happens here can have a later impact. That's the issue. Okay, so what happens in the first 3 years can influence at what happens at 7 years old, which is why the early years, we are a bit more careful in the cumulative media, whether education or entertainment. All right. Now, I want to ask this question, right? To the adults, right? Is it realistic? I don't know. I mean, do you spend, anybody has, or less than, or we can say more than, okay, more than, since the question is more than, who has more than 2 hours of entertainment and social screen time per day? Or you just think it's not realistic? I mean, it includes your online shopping, I guess, right? Maybe that should be a category. Okay, your shopping, your errands, and your news consumption and all that, that could be a category as well, your errands. All right, can we have some response to this? Anybody has more than that? I will try to limit. Okay, thank you. That's good. Yeah, Pramjit, so yeah, definitely, Geraldine, that's great. 4 hours social CC. Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? Anything to contribute? More than, right? Yeah. Binging on Korean drama. More than Korean series. Yeah lah, blame it as a Korean drama. Huh? Bollywood film, 2 hours more than. Very hard to stick to 2 hours, but I'm trying. Okay, everybody, 5 to 6 hours entertainment. More than. Guys, it's not good. Okay. I don't. I'm maybe the minority. Work is not included. Okay, I'm talking about leisure. Okay, work is fine. I spend lots of hours on work. Right. I don't spend more than 2 hours on social or entertainment. Right. I'm a bit antisocial, but yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's see. What are we dealing with? Okay. Does this workshop count in the 2 hours? Nope. Educational. I'm not addictive, am I? The key is addictive. Are you addictive to me? I don't think so. All right. Addictive and depressed. Usually the differentiator is that you've got enough. Okay, Cheryl, is enough. Okay, 1 hour of you, I think we can stop. Yeah, that's what usually it means. You are working a bit more. But if you're like, oh, Cheryl, don't stop, right? I mean, I don't think it happens, right? So then you know that if you need to, tomorrow you're looking for me again, then I'm addictive. I'm not good for you. But I don't think so. Yeah, tomorrow you're looking for the Korean drama, right? You can't stop. You want to know what happens. Okay, so that's addictive. That's usually how you find out, whether the kids want to do it again. All right. If they keep wanting to go back, then you're a little bit worried. Okay. Now, anybody who's struggling to manage a child at home with excessive screen time use, can I ask? Yes? Anybody who is having a child management? Let's move a little bit. Okay, now I've heard from you. Anybody struggling with a child which is excessive or an adult? Yes, Junie, you have all right, excessive screen time. Yes, I'm talking about more than 2 hours of entertainment, leisure time. That's why you're here, I guess. Yes, thank you, Dorothy. Yeah, Cheryl. Okay, yes, all right, yes, Cheryl, Rachel from the Philippines. More than one child, Geraldine, and maybe some adults as well, the better half. Okay, okay, I guess that's why you're here, okay, and 2 children, all right. Okay, now let's see what we're dealing with, okay. I have bad news for you, This 2 hours is serious business, okay. This is taken from the Harvard University, right, the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. If you want to convince yourself, it's quite a technical paper, but it's I like it a lot. You can go and Google dopamine, smartphones, and you. So this Trevor is a research technician at Harvard, and he says this, okay, platforms like Facebook, and he's interviewed ex-developers from all these platforms, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, sure, TikTok, because this was 2018, TikTok wasn't that popular yet. Leverage on the very same neural circuits used by slot machines and cocaine to keep us using their products as much as possible. Neuroscientists work in these platforms. Their job is to meddle with dopamine to get you to come back again. In fact, in this site, he actually goes into some of that. So we now know how to get you. So dopamine basically comes out and make your brain happy. It gives you a boost of pleasure. Then you want it to repeat again because the sense of pleasure is nice, right? We are pleasure-seeking people, so we want to have it again. Okay, so the key is anticipating the reward, right? So scientists they're down to the minute by minute reaction in your dopamine networks. This is how good they are at knowing what can trigger your dopamine network. Okay, so dopamine is what's addictive. Okay, it's the pleasure chemicals that say I want to go back and have more of that. Okay, so I mean, this is just too technical, but basically, if you're expecting a reward, you're expecting a light, and you get at the expectation and you getting the reward, the expectation already itself is giving you a boost of dopamine, right? And if your prediction didn't materialize, you have a boost, and then you have a negative dip. But basically, it's just to impress upon you that the scientists really know minute by minute how they can trigger the brain to release this very potent chemical. In casino networks, gambling addicts, drug addicts have issues with the same networks. Now, the same networks, we're talking about this very same networks that they are being played with in this screen time release, okay? So in fact, if you read the site, they tell you at some point, and this was in 2018, I don't know whether it was still true, what Instagram was doing, right, was that they were withholding, people will like a comment, but you know what? Instagram doesn't show it immediately, right? Because they want to get the checking behavior to come in. They know exactly how you're going to behave. So you're going to check back, why is nobody responding to what is potentially a very good post? But then it comes later. So they're actually playing with the habits and the dopamine release. So they're timing every single thing to cultivate the desire to come back to the social content again and again before it becomes the next thing you're addicted, where you have a withdrawal, where if you're not having your gadget, you're very uncomfortable. That's when the addiction, the habitual pathway has already been formed. This is what's happening with our kids as well. If we are letting them have their way, and the recommendations are very real. Kids were spending the 2 hours beyond that on this kind of media, have the kind of networks that are being played on, and that's why they're going back to that. And it's not good. Okay. This part is very bad news for all of us. This is a very recent article. It's only 2 months ago, 2022. If you might have read it, a few other news sites picked up on it. How parents' own internet addiction, all right, our own spending of time can fuel their children's and what to do about it, right? So now this is a big report on a research that was conducted in Qatar. Right? It was good research. So this research involved 168 parents of teens, all right, adolescents, and they lived in Qatar. And you know what they found? They found that there was a direct correlation between how much usage the parents would get, were having, and how strong the children's compulsions were. Basically, setting an example is a powerful form of parenting. And I would agree with that, really. I am addicted to the brain and to work, right? So I'm on the screen all the time, but I'm working. I'm very antisocial. If you if you befriend me on social media, please don't, or leave me a message. I often don't respond to you. It doesn't attract me. I find it distracting. So I have my notifications off, right? Because I find it a distraction. So I'm not social like that. So I don't have a problem, but I do understand the science of it. And my issue is moderating my work so that I'm more balanced, right? And in my children, I have a 10-year-old and slides on their laptop. Trust me, it's real, because they see me creating slides, right? And I think it's fun, and so my children do that. I really do agree. I see that in my life, right? Not necessarily but they see me on, right? They like to get on Zoom and talk to each other in different rooms, right? Because I'm on Zoom a lot. So I think this is true. This is just setting the example, but be very careful of how much then will it create an addiction, right? So my kids, I don't want them to, I spend a lot of hours working, but I don't want them to spend that much time on the laptop, doing slides either. It's not good for the eyes, right? So whatever we are doing, there is an impact. And the research is now showing it very, very clearly. And this is quite a recent research, right? And their findings also showed that no matter how much the parents were monitoring. I mean, they went on and said parents would terminate the Wi-Fi, unplug the devices, very extreme. So they look at parenting styles as well, the authoritarian way, or the extremely lenient parents. They study quite a lot of things in this paper. I mean, I don't have the time to cover it all. But what they found was that it was very, very difficult by the time that they were adolescents, right? That no matter what they were doing, the children were able to hack anything by the time they were teens, right? It was just not working. The amount of parental control and monitoring, right? They couldn't kick the thing. So this is pretty hard. So it's a very real problem, right? We want to avoid getting there in the audience. You know, if you have some little ones, right? That's what we want to avoid getting to that, because it's a very hard situation where you are trying to break this dopamine habits, right? Now, change can only happen if the child is willing, was what they found with these 168 parents. No matter what they did, whatever your parenting style, whether you forced them, whether you were lenient, it didn't work. But there were some other takeaways, you know, because it does say, what can you do about it? I want to give you some of the other findings, you know, and this is really getting to, I think, to the root, rather than saying, you know, what parenting, you know, control that we can, you know, put on the phone and all that. You know, what has been found is that generally the kids are quite bright, you know, if not now, but very, very quickly they're able to have ways to get around that. Okay, so the news is quite bleak, yeah, and this I'm going to talk about Dr. Anna. She wrote the book on Dopamine Nation. She's an expert, a world-leading expert on addiction, not just on screen addiction, but she treats people with addiction of various forms, right? So she was turning about how digital media have turned all of us into dopamine addicts, right? Pretty much like the other addicts. So this is what she said in this Guardian article. We are now all addicts to a degree. We turn to our smartphones for quick hits, seeking attention, validation, distraction with each swipe, like, and tweet. Okay. Now, in this article, I'm just going to quote from her because she's the expert, right? I know the brain, but I don't study addiction, right? I mean, these are pretty difficult things to deal with in the brain, right? And this is what she suggested in the article, right? For all of us, I want to start with the parents. If we know that what we are doing has an impact, we got to start where it matters first, because whatever we're going to do, if we have that behavior, it's going to be weak. You know, asking our kids to do something that we are then modeling, you know, otherwise, right? So this is what Dr. Anna suggested, and you can read the article on Guardian or read the book if you want. But again, it's not just about screen. Yeah, she's really talking about addiction, but of course, you know, a screen is contributing to a lot of the dopamine reliance, right? So she suggests, if any one of us, especially it is your phone, right? I mean, if you're using your phone to watch Korean drama, I don't know. Go and have a device fast for 12 hours. She said 12 hours, right? She said that is going to be when you have your withdrawals, right? In fact, she said 12 to 24 hours, but she thinks that's hard. But minimum, you have to do it for 12 hours, i.e. locking your device away and putting the key away. You really cannot access the device. Don't even peek for 12 hours. And the longer you can do your cold turkey withdrawal, right, the immediate withdrawal from, you know, so you go cold, okay? So the longer you can last, the better, the more better results you have. But at least do 12 hours of no device, okay? So put it away, lock it away, don't even look at it. So you really cannot access it in any way. So ensure that you cannot access the device during this fasting period. Now, why? It is because it is easier to go from abstinence to moderation. Okay, that's why you're creating an abstinence period. And the longer you can create this, the easier it will be for you to get into moderation, then to come from excessive to moderation. And I think we need to consider our children when we want to advise them as well. So whatever I believe in this very strongly, whatever I want to try in the kids, try myself. Is it realistic? Can it be done? You know, is it just talk only, you know, and it's very hard to actually do, okay? So it's easier to go from abstinence, nothing, to moderate. Then you have to start moderating after your fast, okay? Find a new balance after period of fasting. For example, remove all your screens from the bedroom so you're not binging on your Korean drama. Turn off notification. I do that. I hate notifications. It is, I like my focus, right? I like to go into the zone and work at a deep level, and then that's when I understand, you know, the different parts of the brain, because it's complex, right? And what's going on. And you schedule specific time, right? So during my breaks, then that's when I will go and check my email. That's why I'm very slow in responding, right? And yeah, but that's just the way I am. And I preserve that. I think that's important. So then you need to have your moderation strategies, okay? Whatever that works for you. These are just some of them. So you can have really, you know, I think total ban is really bad. It just does not work, and it's not realistic in the modern world. Okay, so she says it's really moderation. Just put aside time to do it. Put aside time to do other things. Just don't spend more than 2 hours. Go and exercise. Do something else. Read about the horrible impact it's doing to you, and then decide that you're just not going to have these marketing people run your life. Okay, these advertisers wanting more eyeball and all that. All right, you just make a decision. We're adults. We're going to do it. Then we're going to show our kids. It's so hard for me, but I'm going to do it. Let's do it together. Okay, so I think if we are talking of getting to the root, you really need to understand, because if it's not scary enough, you just do it because it's pleasurable, right? I can tell you gambling, is really bad for you. You can lose all the money. To the addict, right? I mean, look, addiction when it's at a severe form, right? I mean, they will lose all that they have. They still sell everything and then go back to the casino, right? I mean, we know of people have their lives destroyed because of that. But these are the kind of same networks we're dealing with. This is just how scary it is. Okay, so obviously, some of us have better self-control than others, right? Some of us may be addicted, but we can kick it, right? If we put our hearts and minds to that. Okay, now that then depends on a whole lot of self-control things. So I want to talk about that in the second part. Okay, now this is the adult part and the scary part. I'm just trying to scare you, if you have the issue into maybe reading the article, just don't do, you preserve our brain. Remember, also, the brain is developing until mid-late 20s. That's the peak. We are on a decline, okay? And if we continue to have these dopamine networks, these pleasure, networks keep coming, it's not very good for brain health either. Right? We got to look after our health. We don't want to lose our, intelligence and thinking processes prematurely. Yeah. So there's a health implications, apart from learning and all that performance. Yeah. It's also health. Now let's look at really now, how are we going to help our children, right? So I talked about avoiding it. So I really want to talk about from the onset. I want to share with you my daughter. I'm proud of her. It's not easy where she got to, but I want to talk about a recent incident. Isabel just had her final school exams. She had a big jump. She really did, it's really quite well, all right? But I want to tell you, so we did a debrief very recently. She just got back her paper. So in Singapore, if you're not here, we just had end of year exams, end of October. Yeah, and so all the exam papers just came back. I asked Isabel, what was it that, what strategies did we get right? We always talk about strategies in the house. If we do something, if we're not performing, we go and talk about the strategies, never about the child. What is wrong with you? Those kind of conversations, not constructive. We always look for solutions, right? Strategies. We got the wrong strategies. So this time, what strategies did we get right, Isabel? So she mentioned 2 things, right? That we were studying diligently, our habit heroes thing. And the other one was that she said, because she gave me the phone. I have an old phone. Isabel doesn't have a phone, but I have an old phone that Isabel has said that it's hers. All right. And I don't have a SIM card. So she doesn't take it with her, right? I told her, I'm not going to give you a phone for as long as I can. And we have had this conversation. And I've said that, no. And she said, what, 13, 14? I said, as long as possible, 17? I said, yeah, if we can handle under 17, 18, it will be. I said, why do I want to give you a device that's bad for you? As a mother, I can't. And I let her read all the content that I read, right? So, but what happened in September was that I saw Isabel trying to put in limitations for herself. She then one day deleted all her apps, right? I don't put any control for my children. And I want to talk a little bit about the processes because I think it has worked for me. And it's also aligned with what research will tell you if you read, yeah. So what she did was she was trying to remove all the apps one day, but then the next day she will have it back again. Then she tried and set control for her time that she would not be able to access the screen. This was all on her own accord. She knew she had to study, exams was coming, but it was luring her. I had no say. I allowed them to just do whatever they want. All right. I think autonomy is really important, right? So it was her. One day she came to me and said, will you put this away for me? I said, yes. She said, please put it away. I said to her, I remember very clearly, Isabel, you are making a very good decision, right? It's very, very wise. Isabel does not have the best attention span. All right. So she does have, she gets distracted. All right. So I said that's a really good decision, right? We're all about decision making, strategies, whether it's wise, maybe is there a better way, weighing all the decision options. I want to talk about this because part of what scientists have found is autonomy and decision making. Teach the kids to make decision. All right, it's part of this avoiding this entire problem, or part of the solution. And I see it with my own eyes. And I have a daughter, she's 10. She made a very good decision, and I kept it away. I just returned it to her last week, just right. And she just had it back, and she's very happy. She's setting all her things again, and she wants, a new relationship. But it is her decision, right? Now, I want to talk a little bit about how did I get here. I'm grateful I don't have a problem like that, and it did not happen overnight, parents. Okay, it began a very long time ago. Now, I want to talk to parents now who have very young children. Now, the day I gave Isabel the iPad, I remember when she was about 2+. She kept playing with my phone, and the screen was very small, so I thought she should have the iPad, right? I followed all the rules. I had no screen, no TV, nothing for the first 2 years of life, right? So I gave her the iPad. I taught her to use the timer. That was the very first thing I taught her. I said, you got to go here, you got to set 10 minutes, all right, or 20 minutes. We started with 10 minutes, okay? And I said, when it beeps, you have to finish, right? Now, never set the timer at the maximum. That means if you want them to give them half an hour, you never set half an hour. You always set 20 minutes. Why? Because they're not going to stop. You need to transit. Okay, it's planned. You need to have 10 minutes to transit, then take away the device or have them. And my aim was that she will give me the device, that I will never have to take it from her. It's very planned. I wanted to develop self-control. I wanted to develop awareness and the sense of time. I know how the brain works. You can train it, right? So develop a sense of time. Part of the problem with some older individuals is that you will spend 5 hours and you do not sense 5 hours. You don't have that sensing, right? You don't know. I mean, obviously you could be too caught up, right? But there's a sense of time. And today, if nobody's in the house, let's say my children are allowed to watch TV all day, I can tell you that they will maximally go maybe an hour and a bit. They will all get quite uncomfortable. Why? Because they have a sense of time. They know it is too much already. It just creeps in without anybody saying anything. I've seen that, right? And with no monitoring, because we developed that very early. Okay, so is this automatic? Is enough, right? It is a self-control strategy that we're developing very early on. But I also think it's the brain sensing of time that's very important. Okay, now teach them how to use media. I got in very, very early. I decided that I'm not going to put in too many restrictions. I decided very early on that my children are going to decide. In my family, we're quite liberal like that, but we're very scientific. If you want to make a decision, tell me your pros and cons. Why? We reason, we use facts. I will use facts from the internet to support my point. Everyone has a seat on the table. We can all argue, right? So we're very autonomous. Our children have a loud voice, right? So I've decided very early on, I'm going to teach them. So for a very young child, if you're just watching Sesame Street, for example, you want to talk through as well. So, I mean, your co-viewing is talking through how, right? So by the time you really need, I mean, come on, we need to have our own free time, right? So yes, the baby, I mean, it's a good babysitting tool. But before you step away, you want to talk about, let's look at this, what did you learn from it? So you want to teach them how to use the media, right? And then you check in again, what did you learn? Before you gradually step away and then use it, so that they are looking at the media with eyes that you have guided them, that they're having takeaways. Okay, you can do this with very young children by asking questions, right? Watching along, pointing out what they should be observing at, and then checking in again. Then you don't have to be physically there, because it is a very good tool and we need our time. It's very real to do our chores and all that. Okay, now when they were very young, I can tell you I have a 7-year-old. She's already reading app reviews. She'll come and ask me, can I download this? My first question is, what does it say? You tell me, okay, the rating is 4.5. Let me read to you, mommy. Okay, so they'll do all that. This is the page that they will go and report to me. All right, I like this app. It's really fun and addictive. Right, I'll tell them you download at your own risk. Be careful. It's going to be really fun. But you know what? You're going to watch the timing even more, right? When I first got in, I couldn't stop playing. Versus another one, most of the puzzles are not solved in a typical way. Or this sounds like a thinking game. all right, but he's got a higher one. So you are already teaching them, right? And teaching them about the brain is very, very invaluable. I have a lot of benefit because this house is full of brain talk, right? What is it doing to your brain? We are very science, right? I think it's a big benefit when it comes to dealing with something like that. That is very luring. That's when you need all the evidence in the world and put a good head, and teach the kid decision making. All right. So when they're older, you teach them to read app reviews. I highly, highly recommend that because they are making decisions from an early on. Without any of these, Isabel would never have surrendered the phone to me in September. I really don't think so. It's not one thing that I did right. It's a cumulative of many, many things that have gone right for me that I don't even have to deal with it, that my child voluntarily put away a gadget. I mean, how good is that, right? And cultivate delayed gratification, right? And we all have our, delayed gratification is the marshmallow experiment, right? Where you can not be satisfied now, but you have a bigger satisfaction later, right? So what does it mean if you're an instant gratifier versus a delayed gratifier? Instant person, you only want to engage in things that are fun or interesting. Others would be you engage in activities even though they may be boring or hard. Now, we got a lot of parents coming to us saying that my kid doesn't want to play the game, the brain game. They think it's boring. I don't want to, then don't play. We don't agree with that, right? Things that are hard, children don't want. Boring usually means that they're working or is stretching the attention span. Okay, it's not changing, it's not novel anymore. This usually means it's novel, it's changing, a lot of pleasure, dopamine. This usually means no dopamine, which is your homework, your classroom. Classroom has no dopamine, right? They got to stay on task. That's why we tell the parents, it's okay, we got to do the hard things as well. Life is not only about fun, it's a wrong message. We got to teach the kids, boring is good, right? Boring means you're paying attention. Boring means homework, means you continue, create interest for yourself, right? Can you see anything that might be vaguely interesting? Even if it's not, you sit through and you do it, right? So it's old-fashioned kind of discipline. Okay. A child who gets angry when they don't get what they want, or somebody who does not get angry, or us as adults, are we modeling instant or delayed gratification? Wants things now. Okay, we're in a very instant world, right? Instant everything. All right, doesn't have to have things now. Not patient while waiting in line. So these are some clues. Yeah, you can wait, pleasure before work, or work before pleasure. Do all your work, then we go have fun, right? Always this. That's executive function. Finish your work, then have a big reward after that. That's habit formation, right? We are not talking about having no pleasure. We're talking about when is the timing of it. Okay, after work. Does not wait for turn, waits patiently for turn, buys things on impulse. Now, our adult behavior, are we spending money or are we not buying things on impulse and saving money? It's a reflection of a culture. I use cultivate because I think it's a home culture, right? It's parents and families, us going out and queuing to buy the latest iPhone. What are we modeling? Okay, I need to have that pair of shoes. What are we modeling? All right. Let's wait. It's okay. Right, let's wait. We can afford to wait. Nothing's gonna crash. Okay, we're gonna be okay. All right. So we want to remember that. Now, managing older children. Let's look a little bit about on that. Right. So these are all the developing skills and all that. Now, older children, autonomy is even more important so that they can learn to make decisions. Help them to weigh pros and cons. Right. Now, this is a little bit from the Qatar study. Right. So they said that simply banning screens may backfire. Actually, this is from APA, American Psychological Association, right? That means being very authoritarian, right? For the older children, especially coming in and saying, no, you're not just going to get this. We're just going to terminate the Wi-Fi, right? The advice is give options, decision-making, right? Set targets and plans together. My suggestion is that if you have, if you have the benefit of time, right? You give decision not only for screen, everything. Do you know that in my house, my children will decide, like if they want to go to an event, right? And I say that they don't, I will tell them, the words that I use is, Isabel, I really don't think it's wise. If I were you, I won't go. And Isabel will say, I want to go because blah, 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 blah. I say, fair enough. Okay, that's valid, but I'm considering da, 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 da. She said, yeah, but ABC is still more important than your XYZ. I will tell her, I will bring you, I respect that. I do not agree with you, right? Be prepared for this, but I will support your decision. I'm that liberal, but I am very clear with why you have the reasons, right? You need to give me reasons. If I agree that yours is like, I want to be in this group, right? Of friends. Is it important? Yes. But this is coming at the detriment of some other things that I'm concerned about. There's no right or wrong. So we talk about it. We then be ready for the consequence. And then as the loving mom, I'm there supporting her. So they've grown up in this kind of environment where they make decisions. So every decision become more precious, I think. Whereas if we make decision for them, they don't develop that decision making and weighing of why and why not, right? And they just do it. Then it becomes harder when you suddenly are saying this is not a good decision, right? Suddenly all the reasons come in. So it's really not just screen time. I think it's really teaching decision making from a very young age, right? In different aspects of life and you have to argue your case. In my house, you have to argue everybody, not just them, right? I want to go to this restaurant. Why? We haven't been there for a long time. Everybody has had a turn. I haven't. We always are talking about the reasons behind why we decide. Everybody has a view of, is it good? I don't agree. I agree. And then we leave it up to the person. All right. And of course, if they want to play with fire, you don't, right? But you expect that if you have developed that from early on, they wouldn't be making, very crazy decisions like that, right? And obviously, if you have a child that's having a difficulty with that, then you would need a lot more guidance, right? So it really depends. But the general rule and what the research is showing is that children need to have a voice. You can't, otherwise when they get drawn to, okay, now I'm going to go to my other things. All right. This part, right? I better hurry up a bit. Now, this is back to Dr. Anna, right? And back to what she talked about earlier and really getting to the root of this addiction and how it's able to get to us, right? This is what she says again. We turn to our smartphones for quick hits, dopamine hits, okay? Seeking attention, validation, and distraction with every swipe. And they are now studying adults, right? And this is some conclusions that they have come, and I'm just going to bring us through, right? Each of them. That if we are bored with our jobs, if we are limited in our social life, whatever, right? The device actually is not the issue. We have already got a void, right? It's either we need a validation, we need a distraction from something that's happening now that is not pleasant, right? Whatever that's going on, right? I'm not enjoying this. I want something else. But in the past, we didn't have this. We may need to spend money to go somewhere, all right, plan an event or whatever to get ourselves happy again, to get the dopamine. But in the past, it was just harder, right? So what the scientists are saying now is that we should view this device, yes, is very potent. Yes, neuroscientists and media people, business people are trying to get us hooked, right? However, we also have potentially a void that they're able to exploit. We got to be very mindful of that because nothing is going to work if this void is not looked at first. So the underlying reasons of why we're going on to that. Like me, I really am not attracted to social nor Netflix. I do watch, right? Why? I think the brain is very interesting. I mean, look, I'm a geek, right? I'm a bit crazy, right? I mean, probably, but I really find this very interesting. I'm not looking for an alternative because this is my thing, right? And my hook is kind of here. I find it very interesting. It's not laborious, right? Reading of all this new research. Okay, so I mean, I can see it, right? But looking at the research, and it makes sense because I think the voice have always been there. Children will join gangs if parents are not there. It's just that now gangs are more controlled, probably, right? It's harder, right? Children have no money to go somewhere with their friends, right? They're not able to travel, and take a bus and do something if they want to, get with their friends and get some validation or attention. But right now, this is offering that. And then everybody is now manipulating you to get hooked. That's why it's so potent and, and such widespread issues, right? So let's really look at seeking attention and validation. Now, there's this other thing where families are now being alone together. This is, I got this from a website, but, they said that it's an MIT professor that has made this phrase, being alone together. Families are together in physically, but they're paying very little attention to one another nowadays, right? And the family dynamic without the devices actually have a lot. This set was very good in describing the little exchanges. We're touching their shoulder, we're having a smile on their face, but now we're all on the screen. So there's a lot less of these incidental interactions that's happening. And the incidental are building the bond, the validation, the I'm paying attention to you, the little things that we are lost to, that nobody notices, but it's being lost as we are all going into our devices, right? So the child is losing more and more of these little interactions that nobody is even aware that we are losing. When we didn't have devices, when we were forced to be together in a room, we bump into each other, we look at each other in the eye for a split second. We're losing more and more of these, right? Incidental interactions, okay? That really binds all of us, right? That's why I think there's loneliness that's happening more and more, right? So the recommendation, right, really to the adolescents, right? You can go to cold turkey together, right? But then moderation, but never just impose on them because it does not work. It draws them more away. What we're needing to look for is the underlying reasons, right? So spending quality time, be genuinely curious and interested, not just because you have to clock your quality time, right? You really want to find out. You're really putting that Korean drama, away, like it's just enough, right? And coming back to the basics when we didn't have all these devices, what would we have done? Okay, having meaningful conversations. So what they found, the Qatar study really found something that worked was meaningful conversations and setting limits together and planning together was successful with the teens, right? That means not being very authoritarian in banning it, neither being excessively lenient. And leniency could be a escaping from engaging with the kids, at the deeper level as well. So lenient parents are not necessarily more closely engaged with their kids. Often they may not want to confront some of the issues, right? So it's really getting emotionally connected with them, have bonding activities, alternatives that make it more attractive, than the device, right? You're really going to be filling the void, right? And seeking distraction, then we're going to look at from what? All right, school demands, are they too challenging? And again, I have to stress on the benefits of strong executive function and learning skills, right? Because of its, when we have school demands that we can't, you're going from tuition to tuition and you still can't manage, you're one thing, you're looking at escaping. Okay, and I know I'm coming to time and just wrapping up the few slides, all right? Family disputes, right? Game addiction is correlated with perceived family disharmony. All right. And so what are they avoiding? Okay. And for the adults, is it work that's not engaging, financial worry, stress, something that's not, that's lacking perhaps? So this, to really get to the root of the problem, scientists are now more and more recommending that we got to look at ourselves, right? And know what the tool is, how potent it can be, and then, adjust our behaviors accordingly. Okay, so with that, I will just wrap up. Know the different types of screen time: entertainment, gaming, social, educational. Know the recommended screen time limits. Under 18 months, nothing. Under an hour with an adult. For 18 to 24, 2 to 5, under an hour, and 6 and up, 2 hours. Okay, and all these strategies that I've talked about, developing executive function from young, teaching a sense of time, how to use the media, cultivate delayed gratification, and then in older children, giving autonomy, spending quality time, having meaningful conversations and bonding, and really understanding and solving the underlying issues. Okay, if we want a quick method for adults, go cold turkey for 12 to 24 hours or longer, and then find a new moderation balance. Okay, so with that, we have ended this series of a talk on executive function, and looking forward to see you back again. Do we have any questions, Naresh? And if you, sorry, just to add, if you need help, right, in getting in some of these executive functions, self-control, it can be trained as well. More learning capacities, please talk to us, right? We are able to, the brain can be changed. It takes commitment and the time, but it can be, there are solutions, okay? And you're not alone in that. Yeah, Naresh, anything?
Well, there's we're 1 minute over, but the question was related to what you just talking about just now. The executive function can be trained, but what about in ADHD kids? This is just in the
yes.
chat.
Yeah. Look, for children with any learning difficulty, right? It is just harder, but the brain can be trained, right? Even children with learning difficulties, yes, the rate of change may be slower, right? But the principles of brain training is very it is still there, right? So it's not another method, right? But rather, if for a regular child, they might be able to start with a mental weight that's heavier, right? Okay, let's say we're trying to get attention span, going for a child that has no ADHD, we might be able to get in at a certain mental weight. Now, for a child with ADHD, it might be a lighter mental weight that we're beginning with, right? But we're training it. So the brain can be trained using the same principles as training your body muscles. You got to lift the right mental weight, right physical weight, but you got to commit, right? Not just talking. You can't, just talk and then we're just going to lose weight and be able to run a marathon, right? No, you got to commit to it, right? It's a healthy thing that we want to do. And then you set up your lifestyle, you hang around the right people to encourage you, you have a system that's pushing you along, because we don't want to do this. But then, as you do it, it gets easier and easier. Right. So I would say that don't lose hope for children with dyslexia, with reading difficulties, with working memory issues, right? There is solution, but it really does take a decision to make time to train, right? And it is worthwhile, really. Trust me, it is worthwhile. Okay. And it is not fake, okay? It's not my philosophy, the science backing it, right? And we're very close to the science. So if we stay close to the science, we can have better brains, to serve all of us better, right?
That's right. The only way is up, right, Cheryl? If the training is done, right, you will see results. But with ADHD, you may just have to scale back the difficulty a little bit.
Yeah, and you need more time and difficulty, but you never lose hope and say that you have ADHD. Look, it's just the way we have to accept that, right? No, every brain, and we work with brains, right? And Raj, we've been doing this for such a long time. We know that the weakest kids, we can bring them up, but it really takes commitment and time, right? And obviously we've got to make it as child-friendly for the children, and that's our job, right? That's when we build the system, give them rewards, do different things, but it gets easier as you get into that, right? And it is achievable, all right? So don't lose hope, parents, right? We're all in this together, okay? That's why we encourage each one of us, as I'm doing this, when, I remind myself, I got to really spend more time, I'm spending too much time at work. It's not that I'm not learning, I'm perfect, I'm not, right? I'm spending too much time at my brain, that's my addiction, right? I got to have more meaningful conversations, right? So let's all go out and have more meaningful conversations with our children in the coming days, right? And reflect and see how we can do better, all of us, and it's good for our brains too, right? Why not? Yeah.
Yes.
Is that it? Yes.
Yes, Cheryl, I think that's about it. There was one question, but I'm not sure if it's general or specific. How much?
Is that Elaine's question?
Yes.
Maybe I'll just take Elaine's question as the last question. Sorry, everybody, I'm going over time a bit more. My kids are turning 4, Elaine. Wow, they're growing up quick. They have 1 hour of screen time once a week, Sunday. Okay, since 2.5 years. That's all right. Right? No, that's fine. They like TV time, but they're okay to go without screen time. Excellent. Keep it that way. Yeah. For parents of young children, how do we transition them to adapt to online courses, brain training app? Okay, brain training, online learning app. You really don't worry, Elaine. How old are they now? They're 4. Okay, under 4, you just keep to the under an hour per day. Okay, now by the time you're 6 already, I will even say that with learning content, you never worry. They never go. Trust me, nobody's going to get addicted on the BrainFit app. They'll be happy to finish, right? It is because it takes effort. Learning takes effort. That's why when you talk about online school, the biggest issue is being motivated. Motivation is always the biggest thing when you talk about online learning. So I will say that you don't have to worry, but because your child is still under 6, I will recommend that you keep to the protocol, just under an hour, whatever the content might be. All right, learning or not, let's just not until they pass 5. Okay, then we are looking at then I think more and more you don't have to worry about learning content, and then you just have to worry about entertainment content, right? So and if you're not there, you don't have to give them more screen time to make up the hours, okay? So if you're saying that, oh, my baby is, I'm only spending half an hour, do I have to make up an hour? No, you don't have to, all right? So no, but that is the maximum limit. If you're using the screen a little bit, keep them busy while you're doing some things. You have some room, to be able to do that, okay? And training patience. It's self-control, right? So training patience is a lot of impulse control. So it's a lot of emotional regulation and stretching the attention span and sitting through hard things. You have to start. I don't know how old your child is, right? You could do stretch it. That's why I start with baby. They lose interest in the toy. You get them back. We're going to play another 30 seconds. All right. And then you slowly sit through. I'm bored. I want to get out of the seat. No, we're just going to sit for another 2 minutes, right? With a younger one, but of course with the older one. And again, you have tools and training activities you can get to get impulse control, to be more manageable.
Like gradually increase the
and gradually increase.
Baby steps. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we better end now.
We better end now.
Thank
one
you,
more
everybody.
question. Yes, one more question. Jeanette is typing, but the webinars, the past recordings are available in the Singapore website and also in
the
our
resources.
website.
The resource website. I think I'm not sure because it just closes up. Once we release, we have about 7 days. When we have like right now, you can probably still access the part 2, right? Up until we upload the part 3, and then the part 2 kinds of closes, right? So part 2 is definitely still available, but you can look at our Facebook page. You can maybe see part 1 there as well, right? Yeah.
Okay,
bye-bye,
Cheryl,
everybody.
yes, last one of the year. We ended it with a bang.
Thank you, Elaine. All right, so you're doing great, Elaine. Well done. Okay, and everybody else, thank you very much, and stay well. All right, let's hope we continue to encourage each other, right? We get better each time, okay? And all the best with the year-end holidays coming up, and hope to see you next year. Okay, and everybody, in case you're missing our newsletter, please look out if it's in your spam folder. And in your spam folder, it sometimes ends up there. Yeah, Elaine and the West. Yes. Soon. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Stay well. Yeah. Okay. So we will just go off now, Naresh.
Yeah. Yep, I think please fill the feedback form if you haven't filled in yet. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone. See you next year.
If you need more information, need more information on brain training as well, fill in our feedback form as well. Sorry, Naresh, I cut into you.
No.
Please repeat that. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everybody.
They heard me. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, we'll end off now. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, Naresh. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, panelists.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Cheryl.
Bye.